Welcome back to the channel. We're here with Alex Connolly, and he's going to share his story of how him and his team have done about 250 real estate transactions in just 2 years starting in the business. Everything from getting started to where he's at to where he's going in the future. Let's go ahead as he shares his journey in real estate.
Hey guys, how's it going? So Alex Connolly here with Reinvent KC Home Properties. And while the company began back in 2020, right after the lockdown, we got together, led by my father, Matt Connolly, and we wanted to start. We really knew pretty little about it going into it, but Matt had been doing his research. He had some startup capital from selling his previous company, and so he pulled me into it. Actually, I was 3 years ago this time, I was bartending, and now we're, me and Logan, my partner, are running this company now as Matt has stepped down. But yeah, back in 2020, we got started. We have a little office in Olathe. We think it's really important to meet in person with your folks, and Zoom is also a great tool for that nowadays, but always good to be able to have in-person meetings. Starting out, it was slow. We had a lot to learn. We made plenty of mistakes along the way. Most people will either break even at best on their first rehab deal, so it's really something you just got to dive into. And while starting out, we had our first deal ever. It was off, I believe, North 44th Street in Kansas City, Kansas. It was a good deal, all brick house, raised ranch. We had it priced maybe $10K too high, and it could not sell. So we ended up flipping it ourselves, and we actually just broke even on the project. So we were really just about $10K too high on our own bid.
Wow.
But it taught a lot about the business. It got our rehabbers some experience. And then, yeah, we started off maybe doing 5 leads a month, converting maybe 1 to 2 deals a month. And now it's close to, I want to say 30 to 40 leads on an average month, or 30 to 40 leads. And we'll convert anywhere between 10 and 15 of those into deals. So yeah, we do a lot of post-mail marketing. We love the postcards. We'll send so many of those out. Those really get us some great leads. We'll do ringless voicemails, text blasts, and I have 3 callers that are my core 3 that are on the phones in the office with us. And yeah, they do great work. They bring us great leads. And personally, just a side note, I would recommend having callers in your office. Those VAs are a great price and all, but I just don't think compared to having a team with you, it's quite as worthwhile. But just a tidbit there.
Just real quick, to give people an idea, like how many postcards are you typically sending out in like an average month?
Well, to put it more in a monetary sense, we were sending out about $10,000 worth a month. And that would bring us usually a return of about 40 to 50K. With deals that we'd sell from those postcards. So definitely a worthwhile investment. But we were able to go back and do a little more manually sending those out. Instead of sending them to every house we tagged our DFT program, we went through and started taking out some of the ones where it was either a mistake that they shouldn't have tagged it, it was a lot, maybe we already talked to them and they weren't interested, and we'd take them out of that. We actually cut down to $5,000 a month doing that with about the same lead production. But I still think starting out, it's very important to just send out a ton of those things, as much as your dialers can handle, because those postcards really do bring you high motivation leads.
Yeah, those are high intent inbound leads right there.
Exactly. If they're just staring at a deck of postcards they've gotten and thinking, man, I really need to sell this place, then you've got motivation there.
100%. What has been proportionally like your the deal flow, like where is it mostly coming from? Those postcards or text blasts or voicemails, like in a percentage?
Far. I would say postcards are, I want to say between 50 and 60% of our business. Postcards really make up a great chunk of those leads we get. Of course, we get some good leads through just dialing, also cold calling, blasts every here and there. Text blasts are just so dang cheap. That if you get 1 deal a month off a text blast, it pays for itself and more. So text blasts are great, but definitely not the best avenue. So I'd say text blast, ringless voicemail, cold call, postcard.
Okay, so text blast is so postcard is best, calling second best, ringless voicemail, then text blast.
That's what we've found, yes.
Okay, cool. That's good to know. Getting into the just wholesaling in general.
Absolutely. If you're really starting out, you can just do a handwritten letter and put it in their box.
Right.
It's dollar marketing.
Yeah, that is cheap. Especially if you're extremely targeted in the beginning. You can be pretty intentful with who you're getting leads from.
Exactly. Yes. If you're looking to do it on the side, starting out, still working a W-2.
Cool. So you started, so you've got a pretty good team, pretty good systems now. When you started, what did that look like? I know you sound like you're working with your dad and stuff, but how did you scale up to that point?
Yeah, so absolutely. Starting out, so it was in the office, it would be me running the dispositions. Matt, my father, was doing the acquisitions as the natural-born salesman. And then Logan was with us from pretty much the beginning. He was the transaction coordinator and office. And then I had one of the dialers I've had from the beginning. She's always been our best producer, and she actually worked for Matt's previous business prior to that. So we already knew she'd be a great fit. And then our other two joined. I want to say it took about 6 months for us to start adding to our dialers. That's mostly what we had, dialers alone. We had the two DFD drivers from the beginning. Our story differs from a lot of wholesalers just in that we had a lot of capital starting up.
Right.
So we were able to support a decent overhead initially, which, could be difficult for a lot of people. So
sure.
Usually that starting phase, getting into wholesaling, will be a lot slower than ours, but we were fortunate and blessed to have that startup capital.
Yeah, for sure. That definitely, accelerates you out of the mud of starting out, trying to build up enough volume to do that.
Especially for such a hot market.
Right. Yeah. So you started in, 2020, and it's been like the roller coaster up all the way till pretty much just the last few months in terms of, but still able to get plenty of good deals and still able to, if you've done 250 transactions, that's a lot of volume, over a couple of years.
I will say this year has been, especially this summer, has been a good chunk slower than this time last year. But I think a lot of people are seeing that in a lot of different markets. We're still converting a good amount of our deals, but comparatively speaking, last year was just something else.
Right.
It was definitely just a different ballpark. But now really the problem I'm seeing is that on our end, on the investor end, we're seeing that the cost of materials is skyrocketed. Getting a deal closed with financing and everything is just being exponentially more difficult. And a lot of our sellers that we're speaking with just do not realize the struggles we're dealing with.
Right.
And a 100K spread is not quite as appealing as it used to be on a lot of these homes.
Right.
And a lot of times it's not even something that can be flipped anymore. So that's definitely been a challenge. The exit strategies are changing. We're not seeing the BRRR as beneficial as it used to be. That along with the flips, we're really doing a lot of landlord deals. A lot of people are looking to batten down the hatches, get some investments going, and waiting and holding them and see what happens. But of course, as Warren Buffett always says, we shouldn't be too fearful when others are greedy and got that flipped.
No, be greedy when others are fearful.
Exactly. Yeah. So while there are certainly enough people being fearful right now, it'll be interesting to see where the market goes. I don't think we're going to see a crash in our market, but a correction has been heading our way for a while.
Guys, if you got some value from that, go ahead and take a moment, hit that like button down below.
So yeah, we'll certainly see what it does to the exit strategies.
Just wanted to pitch in here really quick because I know, with the market and where it's going, how we've kind of transitioned to our business, but wanted to see if you're doing something similar. Have you done any like creative finance or subject to things of that nature? Do you see yourself kind of transitioning to that as rates are going up, or how do you kind of see your exit strategy shifting?
Yeah, so interestingly, that is something we've actually been discussing in the office. I've been talking to the guys about how we're likely going to see a lot of people wanting those owner financing deals where you can secure your own rates, your own term. So yeah, we've always been interested in creative financing. Even in our first year of business, we did a sub 2, and we did an owner carryback deal, a couple of those every year. We moved away from them a bit in 2021 because it was just so easy to get those great cash deals going, and everyone wants quick deals. But I definitely foresee a shift in the other direction. And, that goes the same for short sales and all that. I'm sure we'll see plenty of those coming up, especially with the correction due. So yeah, no, creative financing is great. We love it. Definitely if you're wholesaling and you're looking to expand your repertoire, then I could see the sub 2 becoming something very applicable and very interesting to buyers. So yeah, absolutely.
And how would you go about, as a professional wholesaler and stuff, how would you, go about not only negotiating that with the seller, but then passing that opportunity on to an investor?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's very important to have a close relationship with your seller if you're ever going to do any creative financing, just to get a carryback, it doesn't matter. You want to be working closely with them. You want to build that trust. And you just want to make sure it's a win-win deal, because if they feel like they're the short end of the stick, there are plenty of things they can do to make your deal into a train wreck. So working very closely with your seller is important. Explaining it in very plain terms, just trying to simplify everything as much as you can. Now, I won't go into too much detail on negotiating those.
Sure.
A lot of good videos out there for that. But yeah, just to form that bond is very important, because you need to know a lot of sensitive info of theirs to do sub 2. Now, selling them it can be a mixed bag, because there's a lot of people that want under financing that can't follow through with that agreement. So you definitely want to make sure this is set out in plain terms. You want to ideally have an institutional investor for a sub 2 deal, someone will make those payments. Yeah. Won't come back to bite anyone later on. Because that is the major thing that pushes people away from the creative deals, especially in markets where they can get a cash equivalent deal with mitigating that risk. So they're very interesting, definitely need a lot of trust on both sides of the transaction. But I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of them coming soon.
Absolutely. And with getting those, I'm sure you follow Pace Morby and stuff, and he seems to make it look fairly easy, but I've talked to a few sellers about it, and you really have to have a really good relationship with them, because they're essentially the bank, and they're trying to underwrite you as a borrower. And, if you don't have any credentials or any, credibility, it's going to be a lot more difficult to convince them to do that. If you're just trying to have nothing, if you don't have any money, or you're very irresponsible to begin with, it's going to be very difficult to convince them that you're going to be a good borrower for their seller carryback or whatever, because they're going to be, their credit is on the line a lot of times, and things like that for these types of arrangements. So you really have to have your own ducks in order, and probably be able to qualify for other financing and have reserves and things like that in order for them to have confidence in you to give you that type of situation.
Absolutely, I completely agree. Yeah, and having those reserves is just something you should always have as a wholesaler once you can afford to have it. Having those reserves is great for wholesale deals. It's just great for a lot of unforeseen scenarios. Sometimes you might need a little transactional funding. Sometimes you might know it's a deal, but you can't get in there to show anyone else. And if you don't have a sight unseen buyer, then your only choice would be to buy it and try to float it to the seller. But yeah, absolutely, completely agree.
Yeah, so before getting into this stuff, just make sure you have your own situation in order. I've talked to some people trying to put things together, and they're just like I wouldn't partner with them. They just are a train wreck. So that's very important. Cool. So what does it look like for you, with your team? What are your guys' goals going forward? Do you want to kind of maintain the business or scale it up, or what's the objective?
Well, with the market changing as quickly as it is, it's kind of hard to foresee where things will be at in that regard. So our definite goal is to stay the course. If we can increase our lead production, of course, that's something we'd love to do. But we 10 deals a month has been comfortable for us for a long time now. So I don't see us scaling up into other markets per se. Not yet anyway. Something I've been toying with a bit, but haven't pursued in earnest yet. But for probably the next year, I think we'll probably stay local and just keep doing what we're doing. It's worked for us so far, and we'll definitely be keeping a close eye on the market trends and how that changes our buyers' needs.
What would be your average, like as a wholesaler right now, just to give people an idea, like what, if you're doing 10 deals a month, what is your average, gross on those deals, or your average assignment fee typically?
Yeah, absolutely. So to really work on the kind of volume we do, we have a great conversion rate of the leads we go to. And a lot of these, they're not great deals, but what we do is we find a way to make it work, even if it's at a lower cost on our end. If we're making less money, but we can make a deal happen, generally we'll make it happen still. So our run rate, I believe it's currently between 7 and 8K per deal. So we'll do a lot of those deals for just 5K profit to make them happen. But not every deal will be that way. We've had deals where we've done 20, 30, 40K profit. Definitely more of unicorn scenarios, not something we shoot for. But we've had some deals work out very well in our favor, mostly wholesales. Those can be some of your highest profit deals, is those wholesales. If you can get your hands dirty, get the house cleaned up, it can sell for a good chunk more in many areas.
So I think, I hear this term wholesale thrown around a lot. Like, could you define, what that means to you? Like what is a wholesale deal?
Yeah, absolutely. So a wholesale, at least to me, now I've heard some mixed definitions on this, so correct me if I'm incorrect in the comments, but a wholesale, as I know it, is when you have a wholesale deal, you go ahead and purchase the property, and then you clean it out, or you do minor improvements to it, like say cosmetically to pretty it up, and then you resell it as a more straightforward project. I had a deal up in Leavenworth that we purchased for $7.11. It was a fright of a house. It might as well have been a burn damage. But it was a fright. We had so we bought it for $7.11. We ended up closing on the house, and then we had a crew go in there. We paid for the dumpster. We paid them their labor. They cleaned it out. It looked great, and then we sold it for $13K.
Wow.
It wasn't one of those where we broke the bank, made $20K plus, something insane. But it was a deal that he thought that the house needed to be torn down, and quite frankly, it was very close. It was very close. So $7 was a pretty fair price for what it was. He would have had to pay the city 10, 15, 20K. They charge outrageous rates to demo houses, but that was what he was thinking his only option was. So he was thrilled, as were we at the end of it. What a fright of a house, though.
Absolutely. So what, from like, as a wholesaler, you're obviously, providing solutions to sellers, getting their houses sold, helping them out of situations. What do you, there's different ways people get leads, like from lists or driving for dollars, postcards. Like, what is typically your sellers, primary motivation for selling? Or which ones do you specifically hone in on, if any?
As far as like the pain points that are most common.
Exactly.
Okay. That we do have a lot of things just across the board. We've heard some interesting ones, even that the house is haunted. That one came up once or twice, but a lot of the issues just come down to folks getting too old to maintain the property. It's just fallen into ruin. They can't sell it on the market in its current condition. They don't know how to market it themselves to anyone. So it's really, we'll see a lot of people with either health problems, they've gotten too old, or, they're out of state, something of the like. But a lot of the time it's just they can't keep up with the repairs. They can't keep up with their tenants, or they're just struggling for one issue or another. But it's really, it varies. It's really just important to listen to these folks' stories and see where you can insert a solution to their problems. Because every story will be a little different, but it all boils down to about the same, that they can't keep up with it anymore.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it definitely seems like it's really the most important thing is not necessarily the house. It's figuring out, why would the seller even consider selling, and then really digging in on that, and then offering buying the house as a solution to that problem. Is that typically what you found, or is it more straightforward, like, hey, I want to buy your house? You know, I mean, if you're sending out postcards, I guess they're already kind of past that point, you know, but
Yeah.
like,
So
yeah.
it does depend on the personality type. It depends on how able they are to do the work themselves. We'll do different approaches, but largely it's just very important to focusing on the house is not what you should be doing.
Right.
I've heard a lot of great wholesalers in our Kansas City area. They love touting this, and I agree with them. When you walk into a home, the first thing you should be doing is not looking around, not starting to take a bunch of pictures immediately. It's to talk to this person and figure out what's going on, how you can help them. Because if they don't trust you to get your house sold, or if they don't trust you to buy your house, then it's going to be a rocky deal. And they're not going to be sure the entire time. If you're a wholesaler, you know you can sell it, but you don't want to put that earnest money down, they better trust you. Because otherwise they're going to drop that requirement on you. And if you're a new wholesaler, you might not be able to do that. But if you know you can sell that house, then form that bond with them and try to help them out. Create a win-win.
100%. And like you said, like when I have transactions with people that I have a relationship with, it is like a totally different experience than people that you just are like totally transactional with, because that, like you said, like when you're friends or have a relationship, like they want to move the transaction forward, you know?
Exactly. And there are going to be bumps along the road, either on the buyer or the seller end. Title issues will pop up, closings will be delayed. It's just, this is the business we're in. It's never going to be that straightforward. Occasionally you have a perfectly straightforward deal and it's a breath of fresh air. But, you know, if you have a good bond with those buyers and sellers, then when those things happen, when those bumps occur, it's not going to be a major world-ending scenario. Definitely seen on both ends of the transaction, minor bumps occur. And it's the end of the world for one party or another. And I am always dealing with the aftermath is never fun. It never makes me want to work with that person again. But you know, we do the business we got to do. And that's just how it goes a lot of the time.
Well, cool. Yeah. You know what, how could you help a viewer watching the video, you know, another investor or something like that? Well, how can they work with you?
Well, absolutely. Of course, if you're looking to buy an investment property, that is my specialty. I am our disposition specialist. So if you're ever looking to buy a home, I'd love to help you with that. So again, check in through the Facebook tag. Alex Connolly is my name. You can find me through a search. Our website, reinventkcproperties.com. Feel free to check it out. Reach out to me through there. If you're a new wholesaler and you just want to chat, maybe see how your strategies are going, maybe what you could work on, do the same. Reach out to me. I'd love to chat with you. I love talking to new wholesalers, just telling them what good practices can help them out, just some things to start them out, point them in the right direction. So yeah, I would love to connect with you guys. And if there's anything else, if it's about real estate, I'd love to connect. As long as it's not Forex and cryptocurrency, then I'm good.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Go check out Alex, where he said to go check him out. And if you like that, guys, please like the video, subscribe for more, comment if you had any questions, and we'd love to connect with you. Go check out Alex, check out my channel, check out all of his stuff, and let's do some deals together. This is Dan Cohan, and we'll see you in the next chapter.